Hello, good people of YouTube. Sealord here, and today we are going over 5 more must-buy premium ships. Now, what do I mean by must-buy premium ship? I mean, any of these 5 ships would fit the bill for fulfilling your premium ship needs. They're all great for credit farming, commander training, and they're generally quite fun and comfortable to play. So when I get asked, hey, I have this many doubloons, or I'm looking to buy a premium ship, any ship from this list or the previous top 5 must-buy premium ships list would definitely fit the bill. And am I saying you have to rush out and buy these ships right now? No, but if you're looking for a premium to pick up, anyone on this list would be a good pickup for you. Speaking of ships and boats, if you have an interest in looking at another boat game, you can check out yesterday's video where we take a look at Boat Crew, which is a game that focuses on PT boat and mosquito fleet combat, if you will, from World War II in the Solomon Islands. It's a pretty fun game. If you're interested in it, check out yesterday's video. It's a new game that's in early access right now on Steam, and it costs less than any of these ships on this list because it's $20 and premium ships are fully AAA prices now. Yeah, so that's something. But anyway, yeah, if you want to see some PT boat gameplay, go ahead and check out the video yesterday on Boat Crew. But let's go ahead and get on into it. Coming in at number 5 is the one, the only, the Tier 6 premium British battleship, the Warspite. The Warspite made an appearance, I think, a couple of weeks ago in my top 5 best battleships of all time video because, well, she truly is one of the best battleships in game today. And a premium ship that has truly stood the test of time. The Warspite, God, I think it's been out for what, 5 or 6 years now in this game. It was, man, she's old. She's so old, in fact, she does not have the British battleship short fuse AP. She has a normal AP with 15-inch guns at Tier 6, which means she can overmatch most of the battleships that she can see when she's, mid or top tier, which is great for doing damage because you don't care about their bow armor because you can just go right through it. It's pretty great. On top of that, too, her guns are really accurate for a Tier 6 battleship. I mean, Tier 6, heck, up to Tier 7, you're still mostly, in most cases, just shotgunning it when it comes to battleship main guns. But not the Warspite. The shells actually tend to go where you want them to go, which is unusual. Hell, even some Tier 8 and Tier 9 battleships still have problems with that, but not the Warspite. Now, the trade-off for that is that she has a slower than average turret traverse, and the ship itself is fairly squishy, but you do get an improved heel to help that out, and she's also pretty maneuverable for a Tier 6 ship. Now, I'm not saying she's fast or anything, but she can turn really dang well, and she's just a blast to play. Again, a ship that's 6 or 7, I don't think it's 7 years old, but a 6-ish, 5-ish year old ship that's really stood the test of time. And plus, too, I mean, if you look around YouTube hard enough, there's probably some YouTuber that's got some sponsorship from Wargaming or something where more often than not they give out a Warspite, so you could potentially pick one up completely for free if you look hard enough. If not, it is a Tier 6 ship, so it is one of the cheaper ships on this list. And Tier 6 is a matchmaking bracket that is still better than most. You don't have to deal with super ships. The way that matchmaking works now, Tier 6 will find itself mid or top tier more often than it gets double up tiered. So there's that. But of course at Tier 6, submarines and CVs are a lot more prevalent, and you have a decent chance of getting a double sub or a double CV game. That does suck, but Warspite is, again, still one of the better ships to deal with it because of that improved heel, because of her improved maneuverability over a lot of other Tier 6 battleships, I should say. So in my book, she's a really solid ship, stood the test of time, and one that I would definitely recommend you guys pick up if you haven't picked her up just yet. And going on down to number 4, we have another oldie, and that is the Atago, the Tier 8 Premium Japanese Cruiser. What's really funny is that the Atago is kind of coming full circle because the Atago is so old. She's the ship that they replaced Kitakami with when they removed Kitakami all the way back 7-8 years ago. That's how old this ship is, almost as old as the game itself. She is, man, come a long way, but she's still just a great all-around cruiser. So what makes the Atago so good? Well, her stealth, for first off, you can get her under 10 kilometers, which is crazy, you know, by cruiser standards, by heavy cruiser standards too, because like the Atago isn't a small ship in and of itself, but she is certainly a stealthy boat. And on top of that as well, if you really want to build into it, she can get her rudder down to a 3-second rudder shift time, which is crazy. So you have a stealthy cruiser that's highly maneuverable, and you've got Japanese guns on it. The Japanese guns have great HE alpha, which means that when you shoot something with your HE, just by hitting the ship, you're going to be doing a decent bit of damage, and they have a very nice fire chance on there as well. So you're going to be doing great alpha strikes with your HE, and then you're going to be getting some nice damage over time with the fires that you're going to be setting with these guns. Again, on a ship that has a sub 10 kilometer detection range, and the guns are pretty dang accurate. Actually, they're not pretty dang accurate, they're really freaking accurate. She has some of the only guns that are in these dual gun mounts that are actually pretty nice. A lot of guns, particularly like, you know, larger cruiser guns or of course battleship guns, when they're in these dual gun mounts, for some reason it seems like their dispersion is just horrific. You know, with the exception of like the Shikishima, right, and the Siegfried with the full accuracy build, but doesn't really happen here with the Atago, which is, you know, pretty nice. So on top of that as well, you have 10 kilometer torps that have much better torp angles than the mainline Japanese cruisers. Yeah, another thing too, the Atago has seen the Japanese cruisers come into the game, and also the Japanese light cruisers. So yeah, that's how old this ship is, yeah. But anyway, yeah, the torpedo angles are much better, so you don't have to show your flat broadside to get your torpedoes out. Again, 10 kilometer torps. You can literally stealth torp with the Atago. Yeah, that's kind of goofy. Gets the goodies like hydro and a spotter plane on top of it, so if you need to get your guns out to longer range, because she does have a little bit of a shorter main battery gun range, but you can launch the spotter and get that taken care of. And again, she definitely has the gun performance to perform at that range. So a ship that's super easy to do very well in. She is rather squishy. She does come with a heel, thankfully, but as I'm sure most of you battleship players know, a broadside Atago is an excellent target for you to send your shells toward. But with the maneuverability and the concealment, you really can dictate the terms of the engagement with the Atago. And a lot of times, if you do slip up and get slapped, it is probably your fault, not the ship's fault. But an excellent Tier 8 premium cruiser, one that I highly recommend still to this day. And on our way down to number 3, we have the Tier 6 American battleship, the Arizona, the one and the only. Now, the Arizona is a ship that, in my opinion, has always been very, very solid. But today, she just stands out above the rest of the crowd because there's literally a Tier 7 version of this ship that's just worse in every single way, and that's known as the California. Now, the California is a tier higher at Tier 7, and she gets the same gun layout that the Arizona gets, 12, 14-inch guns. But the Arizona's at Tier 6, which with much better matchmaking for a ship that only goes 20 knots, right? That's, also slow and chunky. So why in the world would you ever want to get the California? Because 14-inch guns by Tier 7, while they're not exactly small, you have to contend with Tier 9 ships in a Tier 7 matchmaking bracket. Like I was talking about with the Warspite, Tier 6 ships will usually find themselves mid-tier or top-tier in most cases today. And even if you do get double up-tiered, it's only to Tier 8, where 14-inch, that's still pretty competitive by Tier 8 standards. Is it the largest guns ever at Tier 8? No, but they could still get some work in. So, yeah. Now, the Arizona is a ship that is, of course, very historically famous. There was a bit of controversy around her release because it's the Arizona, and, a lot of sailors lost their lives on board her at the Pearl Harbor attacks, but, I mean, look, we have several other historical ships in the game that many a sailor from many a nation have served and died on. But in my book, it's like, hey, it's history. It's interactable history. It's getting a new generation interested in naval history. So I think it's a good thing overall, and I'm sure most of you will agree. And not to mention, she's a very good ship in game. Like, she's got 14-inch guns at tier 6, which that's a heavy punch to have. Does get a longer reload time for it, and the turrets do take forever to turn. And she's slow, and she's a little bit chunky, but I mean, nothing that you can't work with. But those 14-inch guns, they do pack a punch. If you catch someone broadside, they're going to do, even if they don't absolutely clap them, they're going to do consistent damage from my experience, even when you do get up-tiered and double up-tiered. And she can hold her own thanks to the gun performance, and she's, from my experience at least, more accurate than your tier 6 battleship. Not a lot more accurate, but more consistent from my experience than what you normally get at tier 6, and that helps boost her performance quite a bit. She's a ship that I've always been able to perform pretty decently well in, even when I do get double up tiered to tier 8 games, because again, 14-inch guns into your broadside, I don't really care who you are, that's going to hurt. And that now brings us down to our number 2 ship, which is the tier 9 American battleship, the Kearsarge. You might be able to tell that a battleship main put this list together. Yeah. So, the Kearsarge, yeah. The Kearsarge is a ship that she's on a ton of lists because it's just consistent, right? Like, she is a premium ship that can perform consistently pretty much regardless of her matchmaking situation, unless you get a match where it's one of those absolute blowout games you don't have enough time to do anything, right? And there's a reason she's on so many lists, because again, if you get a premium ship that you can consistently perform in and make credits, that's what you want, right? You want a ship that you can take in the game, ensure you can get a decent amount of damage, and repeat. And that's what the Kearsarge can do, thanks to her main guns and her airplanes, because yes, it is a hybrid ship. 12 16-inch guns, that's Montana level firepower at tier lower. So you have literally a tier 10, one tier lower at the cost of some velocity. But it's still 12 16-inch guns. That's going to hurt whatever it is that you're shooting at. And in some cases, the slower shells are actually a bit better because they have a slightly lower tendency to overpin because they're going slower. So when it comes to dealing with cruisers, lightly armored ships like battle cruisers, they will actually, not pass through the ship because of the thin armor, because they're going so freaking slow. They're actually arm and detonate inside the ship, so that's pretty good. But the trade-off is that at longer ranges, the shells take 6 years to get where they're going, and that can lead to some frustrations. However, that's also covered by the fact that she is a hybrid ship, and you get a squadron of rocket planes with the American HE rockets. These HE rockets are some of the most consistently performing armaments in the game. They can pen a lot. You're going to do pretty decent in terms of the HE alpha of these rockets, and they're also a really solid fire starter. In most cases, if you get a really good run-up on a ship that has a squishy superstructure like a German battleship or another Kearsarge, you can easily chunk like 12 to 14k off of the target. And even against the more well-armored targets, the rockets do have a very nice fire-starting potential. So, because of the number and their good and their good fire-starting percentage, you're probably at least going to, even if you don't, do 10k in sheer HE alpha, you're probably going to be setting a couple of fires. You're going to get a nice damage over time income from that. Couple that with the heavy-hitting 12, 16-inch guns, and boom. Easy, like 120,000 damage a game, usually for me, again, unless you get a blowout match. Not to mention as well, the ship is designed as a hybrid from the ground up. It's not like the Issei that was a conversion, so the whole armor is really solid. She's fast. She has 6 propellers, that's kind of goofy, but the flight deck and the hangar is, of course, well, the hangar to be more exact, is of course a tumor that can be farmed, so you gotta watch that out there. But again, really solid performing ship. If you just need a premium ship to be a consistent damage dealer, once you get the handle down on the guns and the rocket planes, you're going to have a easy time, again, doing very well with the Kearsarge. That takes us down to our number 1 slot, and that is the Scharnhorst, the tier 7 premium German battleship. Now, I know German battleships, especially the mainline, they don't really have the best rap out there, but man, the Scharnhorst is just fun, especially with where it's at right now. Now, like I said earlier, tier 6 ships are usually mid to top tier in matchmaking. Tier 7 ships, yeah, they do get a little, screwy every now and then with the matchmaking. They can get stuck in these double up tier situations, but unlike the California that I was talking about earlier with the Arizona, comparing her to that ship, the Scharnhorst can still perform very well in Tier 9 games, especially if you don't play it like a secondary battleship. We are getting a secondary Scharnhorst here pretty soon, but if you build for the main guns, what you pretty much have is a slightly less accurate but tankier gear. And keep in mind, too, that when it comes to premium ships, income is what you're looking for. Now, if you have a ship that is of a particular tier that can perform well when it gets double up tiered, you've got yourself a real golden goose there. Why? Because the way the game economy works, if you are in let's use the Scharnhorst as an example, a tier 7 ship, and you damage a tier 8 ship, you get a boost to your income. And that boost is increased if you're doing damage to a tier ship that's 2 tiers higher than you. So like tier 7 to tier 9, you get an even bigger not damage boost, even bigger boost to your economy. Now the Scharnhorst, with her setup, you can reasonably get a decent bit of damage into higher tier ships. While yes, she doesn't have large guns for her tier, and definitely not large by tier 9 standards with the 280mm guns, they're still pretty consistent when it comes to their performance. Now, accuracy, yeah, it's not the best, but that German AP really ain't no slouch, right? Like, that crap hurt if you get shot by it, right? So when you're into tier 9 games and you got tier 9 ships with big superstructures, or they're dumb enough to show you their broadside, yeah, you get some AP into their upper belt armor, it's going to be pretty decent. And you can always fall back on the HE. And yes, while the HE isn't anything special, it's actually anemic, if anything, when it comes to the alpha damage. The fire rate combined with the consistent penetrations you're going to get because of the improved German HE pins means that you're going to get a consistent damage income. It might be low, but it's going to be pretty consistent. And again, with the reload time of the ship and some of the ways you can, buff the reload with some of the builds now, it's no slouch. And then you get to when it's not double up tiered, when it's, top tier or even mid tier. At that point, it's just a fun ship to play. It's very well armored, it's highly maneuverable. The AP again slaps, you get 6-kilometer torpedoes. And keep in mind, this is a tier 7, so there are going to be games when you're going up against tier 5 ships. You're going to be in this Scharnhorst, this fast battleship with great armor, against dreadnoughts. Like New York. You can literally drift around them going 32 knots with torpedoes. Yeah. Now, definitely today is not the day to build into a secondary Scharnhorst. The secondaries are very lackluster. In fact, they have to buff them and tweak them in the Scharnhorst 43 that's coming out for them to be even viable. So just go into the main guns, build into the main guns, build into the survivability. You have stupidly thick broadside armor, right? Like your belt armor is just ridiculous. So if you can bait ships to shoot you there, even the tier 9 ships, it's just going to bounce, right? So that's what you got to try to do with the Scharnhorst. And once you get it down, it's really not overtly hard to pull off, and it's just a really fun ship, in my opinion, that can also make you quite a bit of credits along the way. So guys, those are my additional top 5 must-buy premiums. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the list. What would you remove? What would you add to it? What are your top 5 must-buy premiums? Let me know in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.